What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please hit that subscribe button. It's right down there and it's free. That enables us to keep coming to you guys as often as possible with as many interviews as possible. So please hit that subscribe button, like our content, share it, talk about it, be about it. Each one, teach one, and we appreciate your guys' support in getting us this far. Now, today we have the honor and the privilege of being joined by Wildchild. Thanks for coming through, sir.
Luke, man, thanks for having me, man.
Yes. So you got so much, such a lofty, impressive, great resume. Of course, people know you from Loot Pack, a lot of your solo material, appearances with Alcoholics, on down the line. And so thank you so much for coming through. You also have a new album that people need to check for. And at the risk of mispronouncing it, I'd like for you to pronounce it so I don't butcher it too bad here.
It's Omowale.
Omawale.
Omowale.
The new Wildchild album. And on the album, you talk about this refers to the child that has returned home.
Yep.
So for Omawale, how did you decide to make that the title, and what's the significance of that to you?
It first came to me when I heard some of the instrumentals and beats from Georgia Ann Muldrow, who's one of the main producers on the album. She basically gave me a good selection to choose from. I wasn't sure what direction I was going, but on one of the joints that she sent, she was chanting that term Omowale on the beat. So I started to ask and inquire, what does it mean? And I started to look up history, found out there was a gentleman whose name is actually Omowale. But when he went to describe what the meaning of that word Omowale meant, he said, the child who's returned home. I didn't believe it at first. And then I looked it up. And basically the timing of that, along with what was going on out in the society and publicly, politically, and all that, nonsense. But with that going on, it literally caught me because that's pretty much how I was feeling. So it's almost like when you hear I believe in signs, when the timing of certain things. So when I heard that chant, literally I'm talking within the 2 days I heard that beat. And this was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. That's actually how I felt. So when I saw the title, imagine reading the title and feeling that way as well. So obviously being Wildchild and having not put out an album in over 6 years or whatnot, to return home to music or return home to the mic booth or whatnot with more of an impactful feeling, it was inevitable just to come up with that, to use that title.
Okay. You also, of course, have it strategically placed right behind you there. So that's
yeah.
Good good placement for those that need to know what it looks like.
My son was like, hey, product placement.
That is one of the keys to the game, brand awareness. So with that, lots of different things. One, why such a long layoff between your last project to Omowale?
True. This goes back to probably 2016. I was working on an album with Georgia at the time, T.G.I.F. Thank God It's Funky. That album ended up being released through some other ship, the label they were working with at the time, but I wasn't able to heavily promote it. It was a combination of things from their side as well as my side, to the point I was turning down, even traveling and touring at that time. My son started getting heavily busy, being that he's an actor or whatnot. And with the landscape of what he's doing, being that he's a minor, it literally kind of gave me an ultimatum of, if I go out and pursue, the average artist trying to travel and tour and support, mixed in with not getting the support of the album itself, it just was like, I guess the timing wasn't right to put that record out. The grind was there, the hunger was there. It wasn't like I wasn't eager to put out more music. But from that moment, that's when I decided to put a pause on things. And literally that's right when my son started getting into music himself and dabbling and experimenting. And I knew without any guidance, who knows what, the landscape of doing music from a young point a young point of view would be. So that's why I said, okay, let me put out, something that I want to do, more impactful, take my time with it, but right now concentrate on my son. So I rarely spoke about it because in the eyes of him, I'm just dad, I'm just father. But it was the right thing to do. If I went back and, I could have easily multitasked, do music, travel, whatnot, and trying to do it, but it would have been like not the right thing to do. So I chose to chill. And this is before the pandemic hit. So I probably would have put this album out in 2018, going into 19.
Okay.
Yeah. So the pandemic definitely had also an impact of why it came out so long from now, but it would have been 18, 19, because that's when I started working on the joints.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned your son, Miles Brown, who of course is on Grownish. And one thing I always remember too with
Blackish.
the, huh?
Yeah, he's the lead star on one of the lead stars on Blackish, even though he
I mean,
does appear
Blackish.
on
He's
Grownish.
on Grownish
Yeah,
too.
Grownish is the spinoff show. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. I
Yes.
got all the issues confused, but yes.
Well, it happens, man, but it's all fam, man. That's all fam over there.
Yes. So Blackish, he is one of the main stars. Miles Brown on Blackish also appears on Grownish on occasion. But one of the things, and thanks for correcting me, but with Sound Pieces, the Antidote, I always remember too on the vinyl sleeve, didn't you had the picture with him way back?
That's actually my daughter.
That was your daughter? I remember there was a picture on the vinyl.
Kiana. Yeah. They look similar, but they're 10 years apart one day. So it's crazy. He's 17 now, she's 27. So when we did that album, me, Madlib, and Rome's had pictures of our firstborn, on that cover. And Kiana, hence the title Kiana, the song that I did. Yeah, that was her on the cover.
So obviously on Omowale, you also talk about fatherhood. You have the great song with Big Daddy Kane and Posdnuos on the album as well. But since taking it all the way back to Sound Pieces back to 94, this is something that has been a key thing. A lot of artists or even people in general kind of shy away from being fathers or don't promote it. Yeah. Why was that something that you wanted to do from the beginning?
You know what? I didn't really put too much thought into it at the time. I just knew what was most important to me was my family and my friends. And, where a lot of people, I can see the aspect of them thinking it's a corny step to do or whatnot, but I never would change anything. Most of the things that I did came from being a father at such a young age. I think it was 21 when she was born. And that is fairly young. But it basically gave me another step into manhood. And having that experience of being a father, I put everything into, being there for her and seeing her grow. So how can I not reflect? That album, The Sound Pieces, was more reflecting on what was inspiring us, whether it be Madlib on the production or Rome's on the turntables or whatnot. This is the land before social media. Outside influences influencing us. At that time, it was what was personally around us that was influencing us, and she was definitely that guiding light. So it was inevitable. You know what I mean?
And with the fatherhood song that you do have on Omawale, I wanted you to break down, because it's talking about fathers standing up, how Black fathers, we need you. Why is this important message you wanted to put into a song?
Yeah. We're in 2022, and just speaking on fathers in general, I would say being there for your kids is the ultimate goal. And most men who have gone through this know, regardless of what background or race you come from, when you may not have been given the things that you wished for, wanted in your life, you try not to reflect that on your path with your children. And that's always been an aspect in my life. Black fathers in general, we've always seemed to have fought that stereotype, I guess you would say, where a lot of Black fathers aren't primarily dominant in their kids' lives. But what doesn't get talked about is the other side, the more genuine side, where there are Black fathers who do provide and who do take care of their family and their kids. And you never really hear that perpetuated in society. It's always the assumption or stereotype that just keeps staying with us to this day. So I just noticed that a lot of times when I was with my daughter, even now with my son, the more present that I wasn't asking to be celebrated, but I noticed it wasn't celebrated. It was actually a surprise that I was involved in their lives. Some would say that would be a compliment when they would come and address me, but I kind of took that as an indirect, I'm not going to say insult, but something that just needs to change, because no one should be surprised that I'm there for my kids or my wife or, or whatnot. So when I explained that story to Big Daddy Kane and as well as Posdnuos and Stacey Epps, who's on the hook, that conversation is what was the ground for us to work on the song. So I salute them for even joining on, because they kind of felt the same way, being they have kids themselves, and that's why we just need to keep shedding light on that.
So was that the initial concept of what you approached them to do, or were you just like, hey, I want you on the album, here's a couple things, which one appeals to you? Or
no, that concept, the conversation itself is what sparked it. I wasn't sure 100% what direction, but I know I wanted it to center around us as Black men, obviously still fighting that stereotype, but not spending too much time fighting it, more celebrating our existence where we've always been, but just not a lot of people champion it. And the further along we got into the conversations about it, then it just became more of a beacon of light versus a political statement against that stereotype. So it was more of a celebration, so once Stacey Epps joined, it was a wrap.
yeah, that's one of my favorite songs on Omowale. And I also really liked what you guys were saying on many levels, but Posdnuos in particular, I want you to speak on his lyric where he's talking about the roots in the tree and how we need to, sow these seeds and do things the right way for the foundation.
Yeah.
When you heard that lyric in particular, what did that mean to you?
It meant, to me, when I heard it, I still get chills talking about it now, but it was easy to gravitate to. I think it stems from generations before us who weren't able to figure things out with what was given to them and what they were going through, like our parents before us, knowing how to change with the times and how to take a negative, turn it into a positive, so that our seeds can live a better life or have us involved in their life. So knowing that, he referenced something of the parents knowing how to jigsaw. It's like, because a lot of times you got families who unfortunately don't stay together, whether it be the mother or the father, but still figuring out how to maneuver past that. And a lot of times it's hard for them to figure that out. And the child or children end up falling short to that situation. So I think he was referencing more of learning the aspect of co-parenting, being a father itself, things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also with Fatherhood, the song on Omawale, I like the fact that there's an accountability factor that I think in a lot of songs, but generally speaking in our society, we've gotten away from being accountable, like, oh, I made a mistake, or oh, I shouldn't have done that, or oh, I need to do this, or oh, I need to be a better person.
Yeah.
All three of you in different ways, yourself, Posdnuos, and Big Daddy Kane, on Fatherhood address that directly or indirectly multiple times. So how does accountability factor into your life and into your being a father?
You know what? I feel like as long as we can share how we feel, because a lot of Black men have another stigma that we can't speak on our feelings. These certain topics that we should be proud of, we don't really share it amongst each other. And the more we break that wall down and we salute other fathers in general, right or wrong, good or bad, we can move forward. A lot of times people have problems. They have ups and downs. It's easier said than done. You know, that song Father is not really meant to be only for the 100% of fathers that are showing by example that they're doing the most best thing they could do in life for their kids. A lot of us go through different things. There's fathers that are locked up who still might be doing more things as a father to the fathers that aren't incarcerated. So many different situations. And hopefully if a video surfaces, we can reflect that. But the accountability is just owning up to your mistakes, but also at the same time, us celebrating what society, media doesn't really show. And accountability is, you know, whether it be the mistakes you've made, um, and also the good things that you've done, sharing them. Because like I said, when I see things that happen on in television or whatnot, when's the last time people can be proud of seeing fathers being celebrated, Black fathers on top of that? You don't see that a lot. And it goes back to like dolls for kids. Most of them happen to be, you know, not in a Black society, not reflecting what they look like. And so that's why kids grow up confused as to what's acceptable or not, you know, and that's just the way society has done, from TV shows to, you know, books, characters, movies, superheroes that don't look like them. And when you think of Black fathers, proud Black fathers standing up or being celebrated just like any other father, it just seems like it hasn't really existed from my point of view. And I referenced that in my verse as well as Kane, where he was mentioning what things that society might do to, you know, sweep it under the rug. They'd rather perpetuate what a Black man doesn't do more than what a Black man does do for their kids. And that's kind of odd. So that's how we came to the joint.
Gotcha. It makes sense.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite songs on Omowale. And also, you have the song and video for Manifestin that's out now. Everybody should watch that if they haven't already.
Yes.
And that also deals with accountability, but on a much different level, which is holding you know, corrupt police or police that are abusing, taking advantage of, arresting especially Black men without reason. So one of the more powerful things lyrically, I thought you said was like, say, you always want me to keep calm while you're, you know, at the same time breaking my arm. And one of the same things that I thought was powerful about the song is, one, you know, even though you've talked about a lot of things in your career, you're not known as a super political rapper, I would imagine, by your legacy per se. But a lot of people that aren't have also made this type of record. O.C. comes to mind, you know, main source, of course. So for you, what made you now want to address this song and also bring this level of lyricism to it?
You know what? I think it's more or less like you hear a lot of athletes, actors reference the things that they're doing now. They involve their family, what their family can see. You have a lot of action stars who do films who reference most of the movies they've done, their kids can't watch because it's like a lot of adult content. So when I thought about this joint, I put myself in my realistic shoes because I do have personal experiences connected to the song. And then immediately I thought, now that my kids are older, how are they going to feel when they go through something similar to this? So that the term manifesting is really the thoughts that my worst fears that I've learned to deal with from my past is now could possibly manifest into their life, into their situations if they were confronted with something similar. So I didn't want to go too personal into the song when I wrote it. I more or less wanted to take a standpoint of, on any given day, this could possibly happen to numerous Black men in general. You know, a lot of times you hear something, a song, melody or whatnot, and it reflects something that happened in the past. It did, but yet we're in 2022. I'm literally looking at a video of Mr. Ryan Coogler, who went through the same thing. He wasn't driving though, but at the same time, it's like all it takes is for us to react wrong, and we can't be telling the story. And it's just the point is, I'm trying to think of those who lost their lives, unfortunately, when they may have reacted wrong, but really they were just trying to defend themselves and it didn't go their way. What would they say if they were still with us? So I tied all that in together. My personal experiences, what my kids may go through, as well as what those who can't speak, unfortunately, because they're no longer with us, what they would be saying to speak out against that.
Yeah, and you deal with that directly toward the end of the song,
Yeah.
and with the shooting in particular.
Yeah.
And I also thought it was interesting in the Manifestin video how you had it so it wasn't just white cops dealing with you. So what was the point of having non-white cops stop you and deal with you instead of just making it purely white cops versus you?
Yeah. You know what? I feel like the accountability is not just one term. It goes into a deeper thing than just race. When people bring that word race up, it gets so, it starts to branches into personal feelings of race, things that we've never got to overcome years of. You combine that with law enforcement, because I have family that's also in law enforcement. The essence is what they term bad apples. The training, accountability equals, accountability. It's almost like it's drilled in some training that someone who's a bigger figure, someone who's a darker color, someone who speaks a certain way is a threat. And that's what we end up finding ourselves. It's just with social media now, you're able to witness it in firsthand. Everything we're talking about, it's been going on since I was a kid, you know what I mean? But you just never seen it in front of your face. So now it's right there in front of your face. So technically I should have done a record like this on the first Loop Pack record. But, with this happening now, it's like, how do we change that? And accountability is really more about, because we know all police aren't bad. We know that, and this is not meant to drive that narrative, but it's just more about, regardless if you're good, bad, the bad apples or whatnot, being held accountable for certain situations that go awry. And but at the same time, colored people of color, just being aware of your reactions, because you have rights, but if they do get violated, to what degree do you fight for your rights versus being able to come home at the end of the day? So sometimes I get conflicted with that personally versus what I tell my children. So that's why in the song, I just wanted to make sure that it kept a spark to that conversation when people hear it.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Young TV back with NWA.
Yo MTV it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.